Welcome into Spotlight on the NFL right here on Sports TV Plus. We're building up as we head in towards the regular season. Of course, now you're into week 2 of preseason. We saw week 1, and it's always that kind of that grab bag of some teams are really going at it, really trying to win. Other teams are just sort of going through the motions, and most teams really somewhere in between. Gerald, Bentley here, joined by Alex Campbell. We're coming to you on Sports TV Plus, on True TV Plus, on Sports.tv, on Carbon TV, and of course, Maryland Cable Systems, and on the app Watchy anywhere in the country. It's a long season. We're not quite into it yet. And Alex, week 1, I guess the highlight of week 1 was the dramatic debut of Shedeur Sanders, which kind of highlights what our topic is. Hey, there's some teams that you can just look and say, this is a team in contention to win the Super Bowl. They have the organization in place. They have the mindset in place. And then there's teams that you just know, man, they're lost. And usually the teams that are making a big deal about winning a preseason game, they're the ones that are lost.
Yeah.
Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski after the game.
All right, fellas, hey, that concludes that block versus Carolina. That compete block, that's it. And guess what? That block that we just got completed with that practice versus them with this game tonight, this football team got better. This football team got better this entire week by stacking these days, by competing versus them out there on the practice field, by competing versus them on the game field. 0 giveaways.
Bless.
0 giveaways. Okay, special teams, Buki, takeaway. Oh yeah, Buki. On defense, Nick, takeaway. Oh yeah. So that's +2. You win football games when you're +2. That's a hell of a job. We have a ton to learn from this football game, okay? Whether you played this game or not, there's a ton to teach off of. There's a ton to learn from, and we will. And when we're going to learn, we're getting back late tonight. We're back in at 12:15 for a team meeting. Team on 3. 1, 2, 3. Woo!
I don't know. That's from the Browns. That's the post-game celebration. I think they kind of lost by winning. He was talking about they had a joint practice with Carolina.
Right.
And the Browns decided our starters are going to do the joint practice. They're not going to play in the game. So Shedeur was in there with the third string, basically against Carolina's third string, and seemed to be kind of like a throwaway effort. But the story across the league is, man, Shedeur's it. He's the real deal. And now they've made it even harder to go forward with their plan, which I guess is to run Joe Flacco out there as the starter at 40 years old and runs the 40 in about a 7.
Yeah, something like that. Probably.
Well, you have on your roster Kenny Pickett, former number 1 pick, only a couple years out of college. Had a winning record with Steelers as a quarterback. Was the backup last year for the Eagles.
No, he is 27 years old.
Third round pick Dylan Gabriel, who's, dead man walking.
Absolutely.
For some reason, you signed Snoop Huntley, former Pro Bowler with the Baltimore Ravens, and everyone's star now, Shedeur Sanders. And listen to that. What are you doing?
Yeah.
What's the plan, or is there even a plan?
I don't really mind the locker room talk there by Stefanski. I really don't, because to me it was a lot of really good motivational, create a good culture kind of thing for them. So I really didn't mind that or anything. But as far as celebrating, like other than celebrating the win in the preseason, like that, the going over the no turnovers thing, I thought was pretty good. You know what I mean? Because That's good football, and he's not wrong about that. But then celebrating the win, let me give you an example, by the way. The Detroit Lions in what was it, 2008, I believe, went 0-16.
Mm-hmm.
And I may have the year wrong off the top of my head, but it was around that era. And they went 0-16. And in the preseason leading up to that 0-16 year, do you know what their record was?
4-0.
4-0, undefeated.
Yeah,
I know that as a Lions fan. I remember thinking, hey, maybe this team's got something. Maybe this Scott Linehan really knows how to, risk it for the biscuit, and we can throw that ball deep with Kitna and let's let it rip. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that didn't work. John Kitna was kind of a disaster. Linehan made him held on to the ball too long, got him crushed back there, and it was a completely defeating season. Kitna lasted maybe half the season before he got injured. There was a revolving door of quarterbacks, including the current ESPN analyst walking out of the back of the end zone and causing a safety of his own kind, which is just insane. You know what I mean? That season was littered with all sorts of folly, and I don't really see anything different for the Browns because of it. And really, I feel bad because it's not Stefanski's fault. It's not.
No, it really isn't.
It's not the players in that locker room's fault. That organization is so horribly mismanaged that they can't get out of their own way. Even the good people can't get out of their own way. And that is the problem. Like you said, you got 6 people in the quarterback room. By the way, you owe Deshaun Watson $167 million over the next 2 years, and you can't cut him. And you thought this all creative idea. I'm going to save cap space to be able to improve the team if I just restructure $44 million of that to a restructuring bonus. Well, that's asinine because it created a $35 million dead cap hit for this year. And if you cut him, you're looking at another $45 million next year. Even after this June 1 deadline, if you were to cut him now, that's $50 million per season that you're going to have to pay him. Actually, it's actually closer to 70 when all's said and done. Insane. In fact, you got yourself into that situation, and now you're trying to dig yourself out. We've seen this. It's like Taylor Swift said, Band-Aids don't fix bullet holes. I've said it on this show before, and it's true. And they keep trying to Band-Aid that quarterback position, and it just won't work.
Now, and 131 mil is coming to Deshaun Watson. All he has to do is prove he's healthy to play football, and he's doing that right now. He's already working out.
Yeah.
So he's getting that 131 mil. It's coming.
Oh, he's getting it. Yeah, he's getting it.
Yeah.
That's the problem when you guarantee $250 million to a player that already has problems, and we've covered that to death. I don't want to cover it again, but the reality is that is what is hamstringing the organization. That 100%. And other decisions from that front office and that ownership group continue to hamstring the organization, and they just kick the can down the road. They catch a glimpse of a winning season, and it's like, oh my gosh, the Browns are going to be good next year, and then it never works out. A few years ago, they had that defense humming at a very high level. It was one of the best defenses in the league. Jim Schwartz was there. They had one of the best pass rushes. Garrett was going crazy. The secondary looked good, and it all just fell apart with mostly the same players, and it's really inexplicable.
Yeah, it truly is. And it kind of goes to our theme that there's organizations that have that championship mentality, that they're going in there, they're ready to go. The one right by me, Kansas City Chiefs, Travis Kelce, talked about why training camp is so important.
Trying to win Super Bowls, man. It's the only way you get there. And I think it starts in the off season, and kind of when you get out here to St. Joe and you get in training camp, man, it really signifies like coming together, the chemistry, the culture that you need to have to keep getting better every single day, every single week throughout the year, and hopefully playing your best football by December, January, and February.
And I don't think you're hearing that in Cleveland. Every player spent the whole week getting grilled. Hey, what about Shador? And the whole city is going to be disappointed. And, half of the team is going to be disappointed if they run Flacco out there. And that's not even fair to Joe Flacco.
And it's not fair to Joe Flacco. It's not fair to Shador. It's not fair to the fan base. You name it. It's not fair to anyone. I mean, or Stefanski for that matter. Like I just said, it's not even his fault. I actually think Stefanski's a good coach.
Dead man walking.
He's a dead man walking, but he's a great coach. And one of the only times I saw that happen was in Detroit when you had Sherman. I'm gonna forget his name. You're probably gonna remember it. He won like 9 games a year, And Detroit had a top defense every single one of those seasons, and then they let him go. And I'm sorry, but I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I probably should, but you know what I mean? Like that, it's like Stefanski's a good coach, and is somebody who's going to win with another organization when you let him go. Just watch. I guarantee it's going to happen. I guarantee it because he's that good. But yeah, you can't overcome and you can't get out of the way. And I mean, and then you just heard it right there, like you said, from Travis Kelce. And by the way, I mean, let's just compare organizations. I would argue that the Chiefs have probably the number one ownership group in the league right now and the best run organization in the league. I think Clark Hunt has it completely figured out. If you look at his idea to promote Brett Veach when he did to GM, when he hired Andy Reid, and how well that's, I mean, can we argue that anything has worked better since basically the Belichick era in New England? No, we can't. This is the modern dynasty in the NFL. The Chiefs are the dynasty right now. And as long as Mahomes stays healthy and Andy Reid stays coaching, that's going to be the case. And so I think we can start off the contender part with them.
Absolutely. Well, here, let's got a little bit more from Travis Kelce talking about Patrick Mahomes and what he's putting in so far from training.
Kind of being away this offseason, coming back into training camp, just how fast his mind is moving. It seems like he's always a step ahead, and his arm is alive right now. It's fun to see him kind of know the play, know where he's going before the snap happens, and on top of that, just being a leader, man. Just being the leader and being our biggest fearless competitor, man. And he's really leading this team right now, and they're working hard and getting right.
And I mean, that's what you want to hear too. I mean, from the leaders on the team, because they're getting that example set and they're going to pull everyone with them. Just one more from Travis, and then we'll get into those top teams that we think are in that Super Bowl window and are true contenders.
Yeah.
How do the young players step up from watching those games?
I guess just guys taking their game to the next level, man. Like Leo Chanel, like Noah Gray. Guys are really stepping up. George is out there running around causing havoc, you know, and a lot of these young guys, these rookies are flying around making plays, and it's just fun to see, the new mold and new makeup of this team.
They're incorporating, they're getting younger players in there. You think of the Chiefs as being this old team, but actually they have one of the younger defenses in the league.
Right.
And they got younger on their offensive line. You trade out Joe Thuney for Joshua Simmons, and then you got Kingsley Suamataia, and they're hopefully that's their biggest glaring weak spot on the offensive side. You can see when the team doesn't have a whole lot of ifs or a whole lot of questions, that's a good sign that you're in a position to be in that contention phase for the Super Bowl. I mean, really, look at the Chiefs. I mean, the question is, do you have enough at wide receiver if Rashee Rice is suspended? And can Joshua Simmons and Kingsley Suamataia hold down the left side of the offensive line? That's pretty much it.
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, you nailed it. That's the offensive line to me is the number one question, really. And honestly, it's more Simmons for me than it is Kingsley. Because they just need that pick to work. Boy, do they need that to land. They just do. And Simmons to me is a beast. He's got a ton of upside. We talked about that, in our draft special after the draft and everything. I really like the kid, even though he's a Buckeye. But no, I think he's got a lot of talent, and I think he's going to work out because of how good that coaching staff is and how much you talk. And we got guys like Kelce and Mahomes. And guys like that. That's what happens with Noah Gray. That's what happens with Leo Chanel. When you have Chris Jones in the middle, he can kind of mentor the rest of that D line. That's what happens with Karlaftis, because you have that it's just like a high school football team. When you had a really good high school football team and you had a really strong leader in the locker room, everybody stepped their game up. Everybody played harder. I'll even go back to another thing in high school. When you had a teacher that actually showed the students respect and you missed homework in that class, guess what? You felt a little bad. But you had a teacher that didn't show the students respect and you missed homework, you really didn't care, right? And that's what I'm saying is when you have really quality people in the building in any organization that are really good at what they do, and they show the entry level employees and the subordinate employees a ton of respect and have them feel included in the process and like they're working towards a goal together. This is called culture. It's not just true in the NFL, it's true in every organization. And when you can provide that kind of winning culture, that's exactly how those younger players progress very quickly. That's exactly how good coaching staff, great culture, they're going to progress in the right direction. That's why I have high hopes for Simmons.
Yeah. Now let's take a look at AFC. I think without argument, we have 3 that are Super Bowl contenders, no question. The Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anyone else in the AFC that you're opening up the Super Bowl window for?
No. I think most of the actual other contenders are going to come from the NFC. I think the NFC has overtaken the AFC as a stronger conference. Whereas, I mean, it's funny because you look back just a few years ago, man, like the AFC looked like it was never going to lose its grip on being the strongest conference. But the NFC is just straight up deeper. I think they probably have 4 or 5 teams that could be contenders in the AFC.
Okay, so we have those 3, right? The Chiefs,
those three in the AFC.
The Ravens. Bengals close, but they have huge questions on defense.
Yeah, Bengals are close. The reason I wouldn't include them is another organizational issue. I just don't believe in that organization. They're a train wreck. I mean, exactly. We've covered this extensively. They're one of the cheapest and least prepared organizations in the league, and they have an MVP caliber quarterback. Like, I'm not so sure. Like, I love Patrick Mahomes. I'm not so sure how far Burrow is behind him, really. I really don't know that he is.
May not be at all.
He may not be at all. You put him on any kind of environment like Mahomes has. Like if you took, let's say, if you took Burrow and put him on the Eagles right now, I mean, I think he's putting up better numbers than Mahomes. I do. Yeah. And probably winning as many or more games. I 100% do. But he's in a tough spot there where they didn't do right by him on the offensive line. Instead, they drafted his best friend and a wide receiver. And they thought they were doing him a favor, but really they were hurting his progress. They waited too long to try to update that offensive line, and now for some reason the defense is falling apart. And so I don't see it. The Bengals and you even just look at their history. I mean, at the times, like Carson Palmer was a phenomenal quarterback, and they probably should have got to a Super Bowl with him, and they probably should have won one. They didn't. As close as they ever got, they didn't. And then you look in the 80s when they had Boomer Esiason. They got to a Super Bowl. I'm telling you, they were never winning the dang thing because of the organization, and I don't think they ever will, honestly, until the ownership changes.
Yeah, just too many holes because. They and here to be fair to Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts, they're not going to match Joe Burrow's stats because they don't have to.
Right.
You have a running game. You have a defense. Man, it's 3rd and 7. Everybody's covered. Here, I'll throw a little 3-yard out. Maybe he breaks a tackle and we get a first down. Oh, we'll punt. Yeah. Because you're able to play that complementary football. You don't have to run to 45 points to win a game. I mean, the Chiefs tried that during the Dick Vermeil era, had an amazing offense, but they actually lost a playoff game in Indianapolis where they didn't stop Indianapolis once. The Colts never had to punt. I mean, you can't win that way at the highest level.
You can't.
Probably the weakest division in the NFL. The AFC South. Houston, good. Probably not Super Bowl window good. They have a lot of questions on their offensive line. CJ Stroud took a little step back last year in year 2. I think he's still a terrific quarterback, but if you can't protect him, that really limits what you can do. And they're breaking in a new offensive coordinator, and I think they're close, but I wouldn't put them in it either.
Yeah, I wouldn't either for all the same reasons. I still have question marks about Stroud. I've seen this sophomore slump before, and some quarterbacks bounce back and some don't. And so I tend to think he's going to be a quality quarterback. I'm just not sure he's going to be of that tier 1 or even maybe tier 2 level based on his performance last year. Now, there were some injuries to, like you said, the offensive line and to his receiving core last year, and I think that played a part. But what I'm worried about is when they all got healthy at the end of the year, it still didn't look much better. That troubles me because he's a young quarterback, and as we know, when you and also consider this, he's a young quarterback that went to nothing but the best high school elite programs, academies level. Then went to Ohio State,
the
Ohio State, and had arguably the best roster in football this side of Alabama the whole time he was there. Almost never lost a game. And then when you get to the NFL, a lot of times when you get these quarterbacks from great organizations, look at Trevor Lawrence. I think the losing hurts. I think it builds into your psyche. When you've gone your whole football life not losing, I don't think Stroud lost that many games at all leading up to the NFL. And when he lost a few in a row, it started to look different. And that's what I'd be worried about with him.
Yeah, no, there's something to be said for that. One other team I think is, I would say the Chargers, but losing Slater hurts a lot, Rashawn Slater.
Yeah, that was a huge injury.
Yeah, one other team that maybe has a shot, because I do think they have the vision. Here's Denver Broncos head coach Sean Payton talking about getting better, building depth, and how the Broncos are getting ready for the season.
We're definitely deeper. And look, you guys have written about tough decisions at running back, tough decisions at receiver, tough decisions. Those are all indications that there's a little bit more depth maybe than in years past. Generally speaking, that creates that higher level of performance, that competition, and then how do we keep trying to give these guys opportunities where it gives us more of an exposure? We're not even halfway, and I mean that we're not halfway. And I want to get Evan a few touches in the game. How do I get Bryant a few receptions in the game? How do I handle the running back rotation this week different than last week? The same way with us on defense at certain positions. Those are all things that we discuss during the week and try to manufacture.
I like what he was saying. I apologize for Sean Payton's press conference being set up directly behind the concession stand at Broncos training camp. So right. the whole 40-minute press conference is kind of like that. But
yeah,
I mean, he is making a good point. They did a great job building that team up.
Yeah,
from somebody that wasn't even supposed to be in contention. They get some playoffs behind Bo Nix and a defensive superstar, Nick Bonito. Do you think they could make an outside run?
And Patrick Surtain, and a few good junior, and a few good young edge rushers, and a lot of talent on that defense. And doesn't it always seem like the Broncos have some shutdown secondary players? I mean, you go all the way back to like Champ Bailey. It's just like a thing that they do. I mean, actually, you go even farther back to that, like Atwater. You know what I mean? Like you can go way back. They always seem to have shut down secondary players, and they do now. And I think that's one of the more underrated things. Their ability to run the ball is also pretty underrated. I think a lot of Sean Payton's teams are underrated with their ability to run the ball too. My question is Bo Nix. I don't think because he's just in his second year. And I think he had a good season last year. I think it's a little overrated in the media. People tend to say great season. I didn't really see great.
It's unexpected.
It was unexpected, and that's why it's called great. Exactly. Thank you. It was unexpected, and that's why it was called great. But really, it was a good season, right? Like it was a little bit better than Drake May in New England. You know what I mean? Like a little bit better, but it was unexpected. Fair, okay? But is it Super Bowl worthy this year? Probably not, right? Probably not. And that's just my take. I think they're probably still at least 2 years away from true contention, just because of how young he is and how much development he still has to go. I like a lot of their makeup, though. I think they still have a couple things in the offensive line they need to address to get there, and he's got to get some more snaps under his belt in the NFL.
I think they're on the right path, though.
They are. There's no question.
They have that vision.
There's no question. And also, I mean, you can't say enough good things about what Peyton's done. Moving on from Russell Wilson immediately, I mean, looks like a home run decision. Getting Knicks looks like a home run decision. So far, you can't really knock anything that's happened there, and it's only trending up.
Yeah, and he is a Super Bowl winning head coach and possibly the best collection of head coaches in NFL history in one division in the AFC West this year with Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh, Andy Reid, and Pete Carroll. That is a murderer's row of coaches. Now, moving over to the NFC, we have the obvious, maybe the best all-around roster in the NFL, even with the players they lost to free agency, the Philadelphia Eagles. Your reigning, defending, undisputed champion of last year. They thumped the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. They're obviously in the Super Bowl window. The Detroit Lions, I'd say, is still in the window, even though they lose 2 coordinators. So they're collecting some ifs now. Mm-hmm. The Minnesota Vikings, in the spirit of Lizzo, they have a new man on the Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, taking over at quarterback. The rest of the roster's in place, but JJ's got to step up. So there's a big question. Yeah, but they're in the window.
They're there.
The Packers, if they can stay healthy with Jordan Love, already injured. It's his non-throwing hand, but he went in for surgery today
on his thumb,
torn ligament on his thumb. He's going to be out for about a week. Good thing it's his left hand, not his right hand. The Rams. Matt Stafford a little banged up, but he wasn't going to play in the preseason anyways. Mm-hmm. And is that it? Do you have anybody else that's in the Super Bowl window in the NFC?
Ooh, I mean, in the Super Bowl window, I think the Niners could bounce back. I'd give them a real shot. I think the Niners could bounce back. I think Purdy's better than a lot of people think he is. I really don't think they lost a whole lot. Because what they did is they got rid of veterans that I think they felt were probably on the way down. Guys like Debo, and they kept a lot of their good young players. I think they'd really like to probably move on from CMC, but can't. And I think that contract is probably the one thing that kind of hamstrings them to a point. But it's not a quarterback contract. It's a running back contract. It's not that expensive. They did a really good job of shedding salary cap, though, including let it go Debo and everything like that. And so they put themselves in a better position going into next year. And I think they retained enough talent. They're like completely loaded on the defensive side of the ball. They've got a lot of assets on that side. They still have some great playmakers on the offensive side. Purdy is laser accurate and makes great decisions. And so, yeah, I think that you could really see a bounce back here. I mean, and they still have, Williams on the offensive line. I think you could see a bounce back here from the 49ers, especially if they could stay healthy on the O-line. That clearly hurt them last year. Yeah. If they can stay healthy on the O-line, I think they have a chance too. I would give some dark horse contention to the Washington Commanders as well. Because of how, clearly, we talked about winning culture and how much of a difference that ownership group made and the new quarterback and you name it.
With Dan Quinn.
Yeah, Dan Quinn and Daniels looks phenomenal. Daniels was the best rookie quarterback by far last year, and he just looks fantastic. And here's the thing: every time and not only me, but like a lot of people said, all right, well, now's the time. Now's where we're going to see the rookie come out. Now's where we're going to see some. He just showed out like every time. And so, and the times that I've seen that happen over, my football viewing life, that normally means you've got a stud. I mean, I don't have the same doubts that about like him that I do say CJ Stroud, and I've seen less of him, but at the same time, I don't have any doubts because he is he just makes the right decision. Somebody that young that makes the right decision and has that skill set, that stuff's only going to improve. I don't expect a sophomore slump out of him. I think the Commanders could really truly contend. And then, to get a little crazy, I really actually like the spot that the Falcons are in.
Okay. I was going to ask about the Buccaneers.
I actually like the Falcons. I like the Falcons actually to probably win that division. I've thought about this a little bit. Penix is another guy who is laser accurate. I think vastly underrated. Played really well last year, is only probably going to get better this year. you have to imagine that they're going to have to incorporate Pitts into the offense a little better this year than last year because his skill set is just otherworldly. Bijan has also been developing, getting better game after game after game. I would expect their running game to do nothing but improve. And their defense got a lot better last year and wasn't really talked about. Last year was the first time the Falcons actually put together a little bit of a pass rush. Falcons have always really struggled with the pass rush, but they made some key signings last year and then did some more upgrades this offseason. I think they'll be able to brush the passer even better this year. Maybe not like a top 10 team, but more like a top 15 pass rush. And if they get that offense clicking, they could probably win that division. And like we've seen this before, is as long as you can win the division and get into the playoffs, on a hot streak, you can pretty much do anything. I could see a team like that's young and talented cutting through the NFC like a buzzsaw in the playoffs because they're so athletic on offense. When you look at London and Pitts and Bijan and Penix, they're so young and athletic on offense. I could see them cutting through the NFC like a buzzsaw if they get hot at the right time late in the season. And it's going to be a tough fight. It's going to be a tough fight with them and the Bucs. The Bucs, like you mentioned, I would also put right there on that line, maybe like that tier 2 type contender, because I like, I like their makeup, and I like Mayfield that much. Look how much the Browns are hurting ever since letting go of Mayfield. They should have kept him in the first place, and he's done nothing but play great in Tampa.
Yeah, and they're going to still have an offense that's designed around him. And then, I think the Rams have quietly rebuilt their team too.
Yes.
Because a couple of years ago, we were talking about the Rams getting old collectively. Well, they got a really young team now.
They do.
And they have arguably, he's 37 years old, but arguably the 5th, 6th best quarterback in the league still in Matt Stafford.
Mm-hmm. I would say.
I mean, and you upgrade at wide receiver, trading out Cooper Kupp for Devontae Adams. I mean, I think the Rams are going to be a legitimate contender as well. And kind of go back to that organization that they understand winning and they drive themselves to it. They make decisions that support and build up the team, as opposed to decisions that end up handcuffing you with having to chase to make up for that bad decision over and over and over again, as the Browns are evident. Or here, another team that I follow, the New York Jets, that continuously seems like they're in a rebuilding stage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree. And it seems like the Rams are continuously in a restocking phase, like where they just reload. They don't rebuild, they reload. And that's one thing. Like Kroenke's been just a phenomenal owner. We talk about ownership all the time. I don't think I talk about him enough. And you just have to look at the people that he hires. I mean, they're good. They're good all the way through. They've got somebody who's likely going to be in the Hall of Fame as head coach. Head coach.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a quarterback who's definitely going to be a Hall of Famer. Definitely. You've now got a Hall of Fame wide receiver in Devontae Adams, and maybe potentially another one in Puka Nacua. You might actually have the best 1-2 punch at receiver outside of maybe the Eagles and maybe the Dolphins, although Hill's getting up there in age.
But with a better quarterback delivering the ball.
With a better quarterback, I would argue with a better quarterback delivering the ball than the Eagles. The one thing Hurts can't do. The one thing Hurts can't do is throw the ball like Stafford. I mean, he can do everything else, but he can't throw the ball like Stafford. And the thing about Stafford being 37, it just doesn't really matter to me because he is not the style of quarterback that's gonna regress with age. You remember how the guy I've always compared him to as far as like arms? Well, really two guys. One, Jay Cutler, because Jay Cutler with a better attitude pretty much is Matt Stafford. You know what I mean? Jay Cutler essentially had, but I mean that's a negative comparison. But Jay Cutler had all the throws Stafford can make.
Absolutely.
Just had a far worse attitude. The other guy I compare him to is Brett Favre. And Brett Favre, and it's because of the incredible arm strength and the incredible throw creativity. They both have the arm strength and the throw creativity. And when you have both of those things, your career can last decades. Look at Brett Favre.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Matt Stafford will be just fine once the season gets going. Well, hey, that's a quick look at the teams that we see as playing legitimately for the top tier. We can get into teams that are playoff contenders. I mean, there's plenty of those too, but
Correct.
teams that are actually competing for it all, for that Super Bowl trophy. Obviously, the Eagles are sitting in the lead position as maybe one of the best assembled teams. They have to repeat now, but one of the best assembled teams that we've seen in probably the last 25 years. The hard part now is doing it again, and that all starts up here really soon. Week 2 of the preseason is ahead of us, but, preseason games, you can't get super into it. As we get into the season, we'll go over each game and break it down as the year develops. But let's go ahead to our champion of the week. We'll go to Philadelphia outside of Lincoln Financial Field to intro this.
Hey guys, it's your girl Ash by Elegance, and you're watching me on Wrestling Spotlight.
Okay. Introduced by Ash by Elegance there from TNA Wrestling. Now, Alex, you're champion of the week.
My champion of the week's a weird one. I'm gonna go with Shadur Sanders, and I will only say my champion of the week is Shadur Sanders because this is a young man who had a sky high ego. That's clearly why he fell in the draft. I've seen his father for years. I know where it comes from, and that ego has been beaten and battered by falling in the draft, all the bad media, all the nonsense, and he comes out and impresses. And I know it was against the third string, but I'm telling you, that had to feel good. And I know we're kind of reaching here. There's not a lot of hero of the weeks in the preseason, so I'm kind of reaching on that one. I realize that, but there's not a lot to pick from.
He was the story, though.
He was the story, right? And again, like I said, like his ego, that ego was deflated, and he actually got a boost to it this last week.
It was a good week for rookie quarterbacks, too. Jackson Dart looked good.
You did.
Milroe looked good. Cam Ward looked good. I'll go with champion of the week vicariously, Travis Kelce, for getting to announce Taylor Swift's new album, Showgirl Era, coming up on the New Heights podcast. So we'll go with Travis Kelce. We'll give him a champion of the week. We'll wrap it up there for Sports TV Plus, for Spotlight on the NFL. Plenty of programming coming up. And Alex, you got campus bets heating up as we near 0 week.
Yeah, coming into 0 week. Campus bets heating up. Got a couple new shows too. I'm going to focus on, and I talked about this last week, a little crossover between sports and politics. I think there are so many ways that we can create like similes between those two things. There's so many. Sports is like, it's kind of a metaphor for life, and a lot of things we see in sports, really tie into our political system in a way, and we can create metaphors with them and kind of understand both, maybe a little bit deeper in the process. So I've got 2 shows coming out, one locker room politics and the other one playbook and policy. We're just going to mix those two fronts. I'm going to try as hard as I can not to inject personal opinion in any of those political takes, although I do have some. But at the same time, we're going to do the absolute best we can to kind of marry those two topics. It's a really niche thing. You simply don't have anyone right now on the political landscape covering sports, and you don't have anyone on the sports landscape covering politics. That's probably for a reason, and maybe it's career suicide, but I'm going to give it a shot.
Fair and balanced.
Fair and balanced. That's right.
We'll wrap it up here. Thanks for joining us on Sports TV Plus. Download that True TV Plus app. Take the channel with you wherever you go. Have a great one.